I found a temptation in my life. You know, it's funny when you have nothing. I'm talking about like you have no reputation, you have no money, nobody knows you. It's I don't know, there's in some ways it's easier to live fully alive. Because if you mess up, what are they going to take from you? They can write about you on Facebook, but nobody knows you anyway. If you went bankrupt, nobody's going to get anything because there's no money to get. And I think that as time's gone on, a greater temptation in my life has been living to not lose instead of to win. Living with the same reckless abandon, and I say reckless in a good way, not in a bull in a china closet way, but with reckless abandon, living fully alive, living fully obeying the Lord when, quote, you have a reputation. You have stuff people can take. And I don't have any problem with having insurance or insuring your wealth or whatever, as long as you don't stop living because you have stuff. I love Bill. I don't know how many times I talk about him in a year, but a lot. Probably because he's my spiritual father. So, but I was telling a story. I had some pastors together, and oftentimes when I get together with pastors that don't know Bill, they want to hear Bill stories. And they want to know, like, how are you with this man? Why are you this man? How is he behind the scenes? And I was with some folks this week who were trying to build their church. And so they said, do you have any church building strategies? I said, no, I never lived with a guy who had one. He didn't have a church building strategy. As a matter of fact, he was kind of excited when people left. And they kind of looked at me funny, and they're like, what do you mean? I said, well, when I came to Bethel, 1,000 people had left before I got there. I always say before I got there because I want it to be clear it wasn't me who chased them away. I already have my issues. But I remember having a conversation that went something like this with Bill. I won't get it word for word, but the concept was, right, it's about when the first year they came, a lot of people left, and Bill and I were interacting. I was still in Weaverville. But, and Bill was saying, I think I'm going to bring, I think it was not Rodney, but was Basil. And they did this meeting, and a bunch of people left, and Bill said, I really feel like I need to have him back to make sure that all the people who are supposed to leave. I'm like, that's the opposite of a business strategy. And we would have conversations around, hey, if people aren't supposed to be with me, I want them to be where they're supposed to be. And I want to be fully me, and everybody who is supposed to be with me, they're going to know who me is. I don't want to really ease into this. Like, I want to be fully me, and if they're supposed to be with me, they'll be with me, and if they're not, no sense them lingering. So I was sharing that story with them. These guys are like, they actually flew here from a long ways away, I won't tell you where, to meet with me for a church growth strategy. Like, dude, you came to the wrong place for the church growth strategy. This is the strategy my father taught me. Do what God tells you to do, and if it's just you and your wife, it'll be awesome in heaven. And what I learned wasn't, I'm personally not a church guy, and that I didn't grow up in the church, so I'm always trying to learn like the structure of church and stuff. But I learned by watching Bill, and that's a public example, but I watched him do it throughout our lives when we were young. I learned, like, the Lord can entrust you thousands of people, hundreds of thousands of people, or millions of people. If they don't become your identity. And I don't know who coined this, but if you fear the people, you're not leading them. They're leading you. And I watch a lot of spiritual leaders that I love, by the way. And by the way, this is easy to talk about, much harder to do. I'm definitely not, I'm not demeaning anyone who's in this struggle because I know the struggle well. And I bet Bill knows the struggle well. I think we all know the struggle well. Everyone who's ever led a group of people. I mean, if you love people, you don't want them to leave. Just because you love them, you don't want them to leave. But there's something about heaven's treasure being tested in us at times so that the Lord can give us more or reduce us to the place where heaven remains our treasure. I have a silly example. I'll end with this tonight. I like watches. I never wore a watch till I came here. I was always working on cars, so you didn't wear watches because they just get messed up. So I got my first watch when it came here. I was so proud of it. And I bought this watch on the coast. I mean, I had never bought a watch before, and I bought a $125 watch. Somebody gave me some money. I understand now that that's not an expensive watch, but I didn't know anything about watches, and I'm like, well, this is a cool watch. I mean, all I'd ever had was a Timex with a rubber band. It cost like $14, Tick forever. I bought this $125 watch, and I was like, I was pretty proud of it. And I was sitting in the front row, and this man was sitting behind me. This is like year one. And when I was worshiping, he goes, hey, that's a cool watch. I should have said, hey, where's your treasure? He said, that's a cool watch. Can I see it? So I took it off and gave it to him. And about a half an hour went by, and I'm like, hey, I had like one day. I bought it on Saturday. Like one day, I'm like, oh, my treasure. I need my treasure. So finally I turn him and go, hey, give me my watch back. And he gives me his watch. And I'm like, I don't think I like it as well. He goes, yeah, I'll swap you. And I'm thinking inside, oh, I don't want to swap. I want the watch I bought. He goes, I'll swap you. And at first I thought he was kidding. Then he walked off. He left the service, he had my watch. And I'm like, and his watch didn't fit me. And he goes, hey, I'll bring you some links next week. I'm like, huh. So anyway, he gives me links for my watch. I have to obviously go to the jeweler to get it fixed. So I go to the jeweler, and the jeweler goes, whoa, that's a beautiful watch. I said, yeah, I had a pretty nice watch. The guy gave me this one. He's like, gave it to you? I said, yeah. She goes, well, and she pulls the exact watch out of the counter, $1,900. It's in Nevada. And I'm like, that is a nice watch. I have this watch for like 2 years, right? It's like, it's like the greatest treasure I have. I'm driving around a 72 Ford Courier, and I got a $2,000 watch on. I'm like, this is worth more than my car. I could buy 2 Couriers with this watch. I wore that thing I wore it in the shop. I'm like, this just began to define me. So I go to YWAM in Fiji, and I'm teaching at YWAM, and the guy that leads YWAM, great guy, he goes, oh, I like that watch. Oh, yeah, me too. He's like, oh, you should give me that watch. No, this is my greatest treasure. God gave me this watch. Can't give it away. God gave me this watch. I was there for 5 days. Every morning we had breakfast. Every morning he's like, I like that watch. I think you're supposed to give it to me. I'm like, oh, no. I listen. Nope, not supposed to. Here, let's listen again. Nope. It'd be the 4th night, the 5th morning. We're going to fly out. I'm going to teach them. We'll fly out that night. The 4th morning, I wake up and I hear, give him your watch. I'll say, well, what are you going to give me back? He said, you're never going to know until you give the watch up. Seriously? A watch. I have 80 of them now. But I had one. I'm like, I'm all, I didn't want to tell Kathy because Kathy, she's like Bill. She's like, whatever, just do whatever the Lord tells you. But get behind me, Satan. So I get to breakfast. We go through breakfast. He doesn't say anything about the watch. It's the first morning he doesn't say anything about the watch. We finish breakfast. I'm like, I got through breakfast. He's not going to ask again. And the Lord's like, give him your watch. I'm like, I don't want to go. Oh, there's 13 reasons why I shouldn't. Give him your watch. Okay. So we're walking out, and I take my watch off, and I said, here, I'm supposed to give this to you. He goes, oh, no, I can't take it. I'll just shut up and take the watch, dude. I didn't sleep for 5 nights because of you. Take the watch. He's like, no. I said, seriously, if you don't take the watch, I'm going to throw it in the freaking garbage can. You're going to have to go get it. Take the watch. So he takes the watch. And before I leave Fiji, I get a beautiful watch. It is like the best watch I've ever had. A $2,500 watch. It is beautiful. It's made out of ceramic. It's all black. It is the coolest watch I ever had. I get to Romania the next year. Romania. They have no money. There ain't anybody there who's got a Timex watch, much less my $2,500 watch. The pastor goes, oh, I like your watch. I'm like, oh, no. I'm keeping this watch. We're there 3 days. The second day, the Lord's, give him your watch. I'm like, oh, no. Okay, I'll give him the watch if you tell me what you're going to give me back. He said, okay, so what you're saying is that you have decided what level of treasure I can trust you with. So when you get here, you stop being generous. You like this watch, Lord? I'll leave it in Romania. I give my watch to the guy. Oh, I couldn't take it. Oh, yeah. Trust me, you are taking this. I am not getting stuck at this little level. Really crazy. Has the Lord ever used anything to talk to you? So years later, 4 years later, there's a guy in Canada. Why don't you stand? I'll get you ready. There's a guy in Canada has this beautiful $25,000 watch. I see his watch and go, oh, that's beautiful. He goes, oh, yeah, a guy gave it to me. It's a $25,000 watch. I go, well, that is really beautiful. And so we're sitting I'm doing his church service, and he leans over and goes, do you want that watch? I said, do you want to give it to me? He said, no. I said, I don't want it then. He said, okay. Do you like it? Yes. Do you really want it? No. Yes, I want it. Do you want to give it to me? No. We finish worship. I get done preaching. I get off the podium. Do you like this watch? Yes. Do you want me to give it to you? Do you want to give it to me? No. I don't want it then. We get in his car. He drives me to the airport. We get to the airport. Do you like this watch? Yes. Do you want me to give it to you? Do you want to? No, I don't. Okay, then don't give it to me. I get out of the car, unload all the luggage. He runs after me. I'm not supposed to keep this watch. He gives it to me. 3 years later, it breaks. I send it in to get it fixed. It's a phony. It's worth $15. I don't even know what that means. It was a skunk. I bet that guy got a $25,000 reward for a watch that wasn't worth $15 because he thought it was. I just have the deepest sense that the Lord is calling us to deep purpose. But I believe that we all have to calibrate. I definitely speak to myself tonight and say it's so important that we keep the main thing. That earthly treasures, whether it's influence with people or whether it's a house on the hill or whether it's fame or fortune or whatever it is that is your, like, that demons out there, and you probably know it. If you're older than 15, you probably know, hey, that thing right there, that's the thing that tries to derail me. But I've put people around me, I've put God in my heart. It's like that thing's not ever going to take me down because I'm aware of it, and I have a strategic plan, not against that, but for that. I stay for that. Put your hand on your heart. I want to just pray for you. Lord, you talked about our hearts tonight. And you said, where your heart is, that's where your treasure is. And so we can tell where our heart is by what we treasure. I pray tonight that you would, as you do so well, that you would search our hearts. David prayed this prayer, I think often, that you would search our hearts, and if you find anything in there that isn't right, whether it's evil or whether it's just 2 degrees off, I pray, God, that you would adjust us, that you would use wise people to speak into our lives, that you would talk to us, and that, like the watch story, we wouldn't get stuck at one level, that we would live fully alive, and that whether we have very little or whether we have a lot, that we would stay in the same mode. I don't live my life to not lose. I live my life to win.